We live in a time where feeling bad is seen as a personal failure, a flaw to fix or medicate away. Yet Dr. Randolph Nesse, in Good Reasons for Feeling Bad, turns this idea upside down. He invites us to ask not how do we get rid of suffering, but rather, why did evolution design us to feel it in the first place? Through the lens of evolutionary psychiatry, Ness explores how emotions like sadness, fear, and guilt once served vital survival purposes. Pain protected us. Anxiety prepared us. Even despair had its evolutionary roots in conserving energy when hope was lost. These feelings, he argues, are not malfunctions of the mind. They are intricate systems of self-preservation, shaped by millions of years of adaptation. This book is not a manual for avoiding pain. It's a guide to understanding it. Ness shows that by recognizing the purpose behind our emotions, we can transform how we relate to them. Not as enemies, but as ancient allies trying to keep us alive. If you've ever wondered why you feel the way you do, this summary will offer both comfort and clarity. Because sometimes the first step to healing isn't to silence the pain, it's to listen to what it's trying to say. Stay with us to the end of this video, and if you find meaning in this reflection, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to understand their own mind a little bit better. Chapter 1. Why We Feel Sad. The Evolutionary Logic of Suffering. Sadness, that heavy, quiet visitor, often arrives when we lose something meaningful. A person, a dream, a sense of control. Modern medicine tends to see it as a symptom to be erased, but Dr. Randolph Nesse invites us to look deeper. Perhaps sadness is not a mistake, but a message. From an evolutionary point of view, every emotion exists because it once helped our ancestors survive. Fear kept them safe from predators. Anger helped them defend resources. Sadness, in its most ancient form, encouraged withdrawal, a temporary slowing down that allowed reflection, learning, and eventual recovery. Nesse calls this the smoke detector principle. Emotions, like alarms, are designed to err on the side of caution. Sometimes they go off unnecessarily, but it's safer that way. So when we feel sad after loss, our mind may be activating a built-in system meant to protect us, forcing us to pause, to conserve energy, to reevaluate our goals. The trouble begins when this system lingers too long or fires too often in a modern world that overwhelms us with loss, comparison, and uncertainty. Nesse suggests that instead of fighting sadness outright, we might ask, what is my mind trying to tell me? Is it calling for rest? For change? For meaning? Sadness becomes dangerous not because it exists, but because we've forgotten how to read it. We confuse the signal with the problem. The result is we medicate the messenger without hearing the message. And here lies Nesse's radical compassion, acknowledging that to be human is to feel deeply, sometimes painfully, because evolution crafted us not for comfort, but for adaptation. The very feelings we wish away may hold the wisdom we need most. Chapter 2. The Wisdom of Anxiety. Nature's Early Warning System. Anxiety is one of the most misunderstood emotions in human history. We often label it as weakness or even as an enemy that sabotages peace. But in Good Reasons for Feeling Bad, Dr. Nesse reframes anxiety as a kind of ancient guardian, a finely tuned alarm system shaped by evolution to protect us from harm. Imagine our ancestors walking through the savannah. A rustle in the grass could mean danger, a snake, a predator, or nothing at all. The anxious individual who assumed the worst had a better chance of surviving than the carefree one who ignored the sound. Over time, natural selection favored those whose minds could detect threats quickly, even if that meant living with false alarms. This is what Nesse calls the smoke detector principle. It's better to have a few unnecessary alarms than to miss a real fire. In our modern lives, though, the same protective system misfires. The predators are no longer lions. They are deadlines, social pressures, and existential fears. Our ancient brains still react as if we're being chased, flooding us with adrenaline for threats that exist only in thought. That's why anxiety feels so physical: racing heart, tight chest, restless energy. It's your body preparing for a battle that never arrives. Nesse argues that instead of silencing anxiety with shame or suppression, we should learn to understand its purpose. Ask, what is this feeling trying to warn me about? Is the alarm justified, or is it reacting to an imagined danger? By distinguishing useful anxiety, which motivates preparation and awareness, from toxic anxiety, which loops endlessly without resolution, we can begin to work with our biology rather than against it. Nesse's message is not that anxiety is good, but that it's intelligent. It's a product of evolution's care for our survival. And perhaps the first step towards peace isn't to destroy this alarm, but to learn to listen to it wisely. Chapter 3: Fear and Anger, the Twin Forces of Survival. Fear and anger, the emotional siblings that shaped humanity's survival. In Good Reasons for Feeling Bad, Dr. Randolph Nesse explores how these intense emotions, though often destructive in modern contexts, once formed the backbone of our ancestors' ability to stay alive. Fear, he explains, is the mind's anticipation of danger. It sharpens attention, mobilizes energy, and prepares the body for action. When a threat appeared, a predator, an enemy, or a sudden storm, fear triggered the fight, flight, or freeze response. Every racing heartbeat, every rush of adrenaline was a finely tuned biological orchestra ensuring one thing: survival. Without fear, early humans would have walked carelessly into danger, too calm to live long enough to pass on their genes. But fear has a problem. Like a hypersensitive alarm, it can't always tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. In our world, we rarely face lions or cliffs, but our brains still react to emails, criticism, or uncertainty with the same chemical panic. The result? Chronic fear, an ancient tool now misapplied to modern life. Anger, on the other hand, evolved as the body's mechanism for reclaiming control. When an injustice occurred, a stolen resource, a betrayal, a violation, anger surged as motivation to correct it. It gave humans the courage to defend boundaries, to fight for fairness, and to signal strength to others. But in the 21st century, where most conflicts are social or psychological, this raw power often backfires. Instead of resolving danger, anger fuels division, stress, and regret. Nesse reminds us that both fear and anger are tools, not tyrants. Their purpose is not to rule us, but to inform us. The real art of emotional wisdom lies in discerning when these feelings are useful and when they are echoes of an outdated survival script. By understanding fear and anger as natural systems, not moral failings, we can begin to master them. Because to manage your emotions is not to suppress your humanity, it is to finally understand it. Chapter 4: Guilt and Shame. The social emotions that shaped civilization. If fear and anger protected our bodies, then guilt and shame protected our societies. In Good Reasons for Feeling Bad, Dr. Randolph Nesse explores how these two emotions, often painful, sometimes crippling, evolved not to torment us, but to keep us connected. They are the invisible threads that hold groups together, maintaining trust, fairness, and cooperation. Guilt, Nesse explains, is the emotion that arises when we've harmed someone or failed to meet a moral obligation. It's the internal voice that says, "You can do better, make it right." From an evolutionary standpoint, guilt helped early humans preserve alliances and repair social bonds after conflict. Those who felt remorse were more likely to regain acceptance, while the shameless risked exile, a death sentence in tribal life. Shame, though related, serves a different purpose. While guilt focuses on specific actions, shame targets the self. It's the hot sting of exposure, the fear of being seen as unworthy. In ancestral societies, this was crucial for survival. Social belonging meant protection, food, and mates. To lose one's reputation was to lose everything. Thus, shame evolved as a behavioral deterrent, keeping us aligned with group values before we even broke them. But in the modern world, these emotions can easily turn toxic. Today, we live in vast societies where reputation is broadcast to millions and moral expectations are tangled with perfectionism. What was once a subtle internal compass now blares like a siren. We feel guilt for things beyond our control. We feel shame for simply being imperfect. Nesse urges us to reclaim these emotions as allies rather than enemies. Healthy guilt motivates empathy and moral growth. Healthy shame reminds us to act with integrity. But when they spiral into self-hatred, they stop serving their evolutionary function. The goal is not to silence them, it's to calibrate them. In recognizing that guilt and shame are not moral verdicts, but adaptive mechanisms, we free ourselves from their tyranny while honoring their wisdom. Because the capacity to feel bad about doing wrong is, paradoxically, one of humanity's greatest strengths. Chapter 5: The Fleeting Nature of Happiness. Why we're not meant to stay happy forever. Happiness, the shimmering prize that all humans chase, yet never seem to hold. Dr. Randolph Nesse opens this chapter with an unsettling truth. From an evolutionary perspective, constant happiness was never the goal. Evolution doesn't care if we're joyful. It only cares if we survive and reproduce. That's why pleasure is designed to fade. It keeps us moving, striving, and adapting. This phenomenon, known as the hedonic treadmill, is nature's way of keeping us in motion. When our ancestors succeeded, hunted food, found shelter, formed alliances, the brain released reward chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. But those bursts were temporary. If happiness lasted forever, motivation would vanish. We'd stop hunting, building, or seeking improvement. So the brain resets the bar again and again, ensuring desire never dies. Nesse doesn't frame this as a tragedy, but as a clue. He suggests that our dissatisfaction isn't proof that life is broken, it's evidence that we're alive. The restlessness we feel is the spark that drives civilization forward. Yet in modern life, where comfort and abundance are everywhere, this same system traps us in cycles of wanting more success, more validation, more pleasure, without true fulfillment. The key, Nesse argues, lies in understanding happiness not as a permanent state, but as a feedback signal. It tells us when our needs are being met and when they're not. The goal, then, is not endless joy, but emotional flexibility, the ability to move gracefully between states, learning from each. In other words, happiness is not a destination, it's a compass. It points us toward what matters, then steps aside. To demand constant happiness is to demand a biological impossibility. But to seek meaning, connection, and growth, those are sustainable aims. Nesse closes the chapter with quiet reassurance. If happiness fades, it's not because you've failed. It's because evolution designed it that way. The secret is to stop chasing the feeling and start following the function behind it.
Chapter 6: Healing the Mind, Making Peace with Our Emotional Design. In the final stretch of Good Reasons for Feeling Bad, Dr. Randolph Nesse brings his ideas full circle, from explaining why we suffer to showing how understanding that why can help us heal. The central insight is both scientific and deeply humane. We cannot eliminate emotional pain, but we can learn to interpret it with wisdom. Nesse reminds us that emotions are not random storms. They are tools, evolved systems that help us navigate the unpredictable terrain of life. Depression, anxiety, guilt, fear. These are not signs of weakness or failure. They are messages, often misfired or misunderstood, but messages nonetheless. When we treat every unpleasant feeling as a malfunction, we lose the chance to hear what it's trying to say. Instead of asking, "How do I stop feeling bad?" Nesse urges us to ask, "What good reason might there be for this feeling?" Sometimes the reason is clear. Grief follows loss. Fear follows danger. Other times, the signal is distorted, our ancient brains reacting to modern overload. But even then, compassion begins when we understand that these feelings come from a system that once kept our ancestors alive. Therapy, Nesse argues, should not aim to erase negative emotions, but to align them with present reality. A mind designed for survival in the wilderness struggles to make sense of the digital chaos of today. Healing, then, is not just chemical, it's contextual. It means teaching the brain to recognize when its alarms are false and when they truly call for change. At the heart of Nesse's philosophy is acceptance, not passive resignation, but informed acceptance. To live fully is to embrace the full range of human experience, joy and sorrow, confidence and doubt, safety and fear. Evolution equipped us for this dynamic balance, not for permanent bliss. Understanding this truth doesn't make pain disappear, but it changes our relationship to it. Suffering loses its sting when we see it not as punishment, but as part of the intricate design of being alive.
Conclusion. Good reasons for feeling bad is more than a scientific exploration. It's an invitation to self-compassion. It reminds us that the very emotions we dread are ancient, purposeful, and, in their own strange way, wise. By learning to interpret rather than suppress them, we can turn suffering into understanding, and understanding into peace. Because sometimes healing doesn't mean fixing the brain. It means finally understanding why it feels the way it does. If this summary of good reasons for feeling bad helped you see your emotions in a new light, remember, understanding your pain is the first step toward healing it. Don't run from your feelings. Listen to them. They're not your enemies. They're signals from a wiser part of you. Subscribe for more deep dives into powerful psychology and neuroscience books that reveal how the mind truly works. Share your thoughts. What emotion has taught you the most about yourself? And until the next video, stay curious. Stay kind to your brain.